Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome in on a Monday. The Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. Dennis Fithian with you, ready to kick this one off. We got a nice show for you, and I know all summer long I've been telling people to stay in the moment, stay present. Let's not skip ahead to September. Let's not rush the summer. Let's just, take it day by day. That's all out the window for me. I don't know how many times I could say that I'm ready for the football season to start right now, but I am. I'm excited about it, ready to go. And, just before I was coming on, my appetite was whetted a little bit with some breaking news that I will get to out of the gate coming up. I will go back. If you watch Friday's show, right in the middle of the show, I powered out, and I had to go to my backup, and, I apologize for that and have everything plugged in right. But we'll revisit the freshman impact from last year and from this year. And I'll ask you the question, always interested in hearing what the people have to say, especially Michigan fans, what you want to hear coming out of training camp. We will get to that coming up straight ahead with your feedback. But the breaking news is that the coaches poll is out, and I have put it up on the screen. Georgia, the defending two-time champs, they receive 61 of, 66 first place votes. And they are numero uno. That's who I would have voted for if I had a top 25 vote. I also would have voted Michigan number 2. And that's where the coaches have Michigan number 2 to start the season. And I did a quick check. You have to go back to 1991 to see the last time that the Wolverines were ranked so high to start the season. It was a pretty good year. Michigan lost to Florida State, then ran the table to the end, won all their Big Ten games, but dropped the Rose Bowl, I believe, to Washington. But you have to go back to 91. That's why, you say, hey, everybody's excited about the season. Yeah, pretty excited about the season. Michigan's got one of the best teams in the country, and we already knew that. We are anticipating the start of the season. Michigan went undefeated last year and won the Big Ten and made it to the college football playoff, and they look like they got a better team this year. So, yeah, everybody's excited for good reason about the upcoming football season. And, yeah, number 2 is where they should be. At the end, there's a lot of who cares about preseason. But yeah, who cares? Who cares? It is about the last poll. You want to see Michigan number 1 in that last poll. And so, we got to do something between now and the start of the season, and between now and then when everybody says shouldn't be a poll till November. Well, I would have a poll at least where I think Michigan was at along the way. So they got to win all their games. I know they could drop one technically and still do it all. I don't think they could drop 2. So, they could drop 1. They did that 2 years ago. You remember they lost to Michigan State. And now, and then they were still able to get to the college football playoff. And if they would have been able to beat Georgia, then they would have got to the championship game. But, you don't think about them, dropping a game and getting there. You think about them winning them all like they did last year in the regular season and in the conference title game to get to the college football playoff. And then, yeah, they did more than stub their toe against TCU. And that was a real letdown. But are there any surprises? I'm going to say I'm not surprised. This is exactly, I'll have to go back and look, but I think that I voted Georgia, Michigan, Bama, Ohio State, and LSU as my top 5. If memory serves correct. Now, I wouldn't have had USC this high because I don't believe in their paper mache defense. And I do know that after week 1, whoever wins between LSU and Florida State in Orlando, I will vote number 1. Either of those teams, they'll deserve it. Over Georgia. So that would drop, that's going to drop Georgia and drop Michigan. But, hey, I implore voters to do that. Go with whatever you feel for the preseason. You want to look at the schedule. You want to look at the remaining player or the returning players. You want to put some kind of formula in with recruiting. But all right, who they got at home. I mean, all those kind of things. If you're putting out a preseason, but then once you watch the games and see them take place, there's a heavyweight matchup in week 1 in Florida State or LSU is going to deserve to be number 1 in week 2 for whatever that's worth. And, Michigan being number 2 for whatever that's worth, it's worth, can you be any more excited? I guess if they were number 1, and we'll see Monday is when the media come out with their poll. Maybe they'll have Michigan 1. I doubt it. I would have, like I said, I think that, you should vote Georgia number 1, but Michigan number 2. There's nothing to complain about. I know some people are like, I want to complain. Don't complain about Michigan being number 2 unless you want to say, I'm not going to put any stock into it until the end of the year. All right, we understand that. I understand that. I'm more interested in I'm totally interested in the final poll, but it's August. August the 7th. So we do have to wait. Anything else that jumps out? I really was just looking at Michigan. So let me take it. I did put little arrows and lines next to the Big Ten teams. Ohio State, they're at 4, Penn State at 7. So the 3 teams of the Big Ten East in its final season, 3 in the top 7. That makes it pretty tough for the Big Ten East. Let's see, Florida State, Clemson. I can see all that. Tennessee, Whiskey. No other teams in the teens here. Any of these Big Ten teams? No. Washington, who I like. The future Big Ten team, the Oregon and Washington still. Yeah, it should seem weird because it is. They're in there. And let's see. Anything other surprises in there? Not really. Old TCU gets there at 16. Be interested to see how they do. Tulane, how about that? Getting a preseason top 25 nod. And wow, Texas A&M, after their terrible season last year, they make the top 25. Minnesota, Maryland, and Illinois, also out of the Big Ten, receive votes. And as we know that Michigan plays both Minnesota and Maryland this year, and I believe they play both of those games. I can look because I have the schedule over here. I knew it. On the road. So, yeah, we'll see where those guys are ranked when the season starts. But that's it. Some of the breaking news when it comes down to the start of the season. And you do have that coaches poll. Let's see where the people are at before we get to those freshmen and ask what you want to hear coming out of camp. So here we go. Here is the poster formerly known as Andre's Hit 'em Straight Golf 23. Yeah, everything. The computer is charged. I've got the button in there. Count 22, always keeping us up to speed on OSU. They say their starting right tackle is a third-year guy who's never played the position. Okay. I am prepared today. I am ready to go. Antoine loves a little OS. He'll talk OSU anytime. Keep telling OSU is in trouble. Let's see. They believe in the brand name and just assume they're going to be good. Yeah, I'll let you just go ahead. I'm not going to sit here today and defend Ohio State or anything else. So that's fine. That's fine. And you guys can, make fun of them. And do that, and that's okay. Gary says Michigan is better when they are not number 1. Yeah, look, there's the idea, Gary, about you could say I'd rather have Michigan being disrespected. I wish they were 8 or something like that. That'd really put a spur in their saddle or whatever the saying is for that to get them upset. And I get that, looking for motivation and, fans or disrespect. We're looking for that disrespect, always looking for something, to fire you up. And, you go through that. there's the one side where you're always looking for some kind of disrespect to fire you up. And then there's the other side where people would say, if you need some kind of disrespect to get out there, then you're in the wrong business. And yet, those of us that follow it, we all say that. Well, if you need anything else to get excited about the Michigan Ohio State game, then you're in the wrong business. And then after every game, the winning side says, "Oh yeah, that's what we were pointing to." And then you see these guys in the pros. I mean, you're looking to find something. A guy like Tom Brady remembered every quarterback that was taking in front of him in the draft. And there's a lot of players that do that. Look at for the Lions, Amon St. Brown. I mean, he can recite all of the players, all of the wideouts that were taken in front of him. I know he's a Spartan, but Draymond Green, who was taken in the second round, he knows the entire first round. Every team he plays, he's like, yeah, I still am upset about that. So, we'll see what Michigan uses for their motivation. They're really good. So, that's they didn't have, at least for the polls, to be disrespected. They didn't have that card to play. They'll find a card or two to play. Okay. Friday, we talked about the freshman impact, and we went back to last year, and we saw Jimmy Rolder and Tyler Morris get on the field. And then, but these three guys, Colston Loveland, Will Johnson, and Mason Graham, really stars. And, now we start talking about superstars. Loveland, because of injury, Eric All got on the field a lot quicker than anybody anticipated. Will Johnson, everybody thought that, the 5-star was going to be tremendous, and he was. Graham got the starting nod as a, inside defensive lineman coming out of training camp, which is almost unheard of. And then he lived up to that billing. So, yeah, it was like he was a 5-star. Obviously, I mean, he was underrated because, there have been 5-stars. Will Johnson didn't start from game one, but Mason Graham did. So that was last year. And the surprise was Graham. Johnson just lived up to the billing. And then Loveland, because of injury, was able to rise through the depth chart and get some playing time. And then he kept getting better as well. And a lot of times when you're talking about freshmen, it's an injury that can happen to get you into the 2 deep. So, but you can't predict that. You don't want to predict that. I predict so-and-so's, we'll leave that for another show that wants to predict an injury happening or something else. Well, I know a lot of people want to know about camp, and we are going to be talking about training camp and practice. And you want to know what's going on in practice? Well, here's the way that before anyone else. You join the Maize and Blue Review today by going to michigan.rivals.com. There are frequent practice reports that come through there. Josh Henschke getting that intelligence, putting it out there, recruiting, transfer portal. You want to know all about that? Well, you will by getting in there. We just say, give us a shot. We expect that you will like what you see there. So we'll see you over on the Den. That's the posting board on the Maize and Blue Review. All right. Well, I put 5 guys that I predict will have a freshman impact. And you might say, well, how are you going to pick Cole Cabana? What are you going to have, Benjamin Hall, number 1, or are you going to have him in the top 5? It's a good question. And I left Hall out of the top 5, not because I don't think he's a good back. He couldn't have been any more impressive. And physically, he looked like he was ready to go. And maybe he'll overtake CJ Stokes and he'll be Michigan's 3rd running back, talking about Benjamin Hall. And he'll take over Cole Cabana, who missed spring because of a knee. But considering Cabana and his speed, he brings lightning to the table, and he could be a wide receiver. He could be a kick returner. He could be your punt returner, and he can also serve as a running back / slot guy. That's why I'm going to put Cole Cabana. Plus, I'm from Dexter, so I am playing a little bit of the hometown card here. That's why I put number 24 as an impact freshman. I think Cole Cabana could get on the field and he could be electric. If I had to predict, special teams would be the spot for him. Wide receiver. You hear Michigan, you hear people talk about Michigan, and they'll say, well, Michigan, they need somebody to step up wide receiver wise. I've been over that, how I think Coach O and Roman Wilson will be fine with the addition of Colston Loveland, who I would put as a wide receiver / tight end in there. But there is room. If it's not going to be Tyler Moore, if it's Morris, if it's not going to be Darius Clemens, it might be. There's room for a freshman to emerge. And this was the highest rated of the freshmen. And I know not everybody puts all of the stock into the recruiting rankings. I'm going to put a little bit, since I have not watched Samaj Morgan and Frederick Moore, although Moore did play in the spring game and he looked pretty good. Actually, Moore and Morgan were in the spring game, but Carmelo who was not. But I'm going to put Carmelo in there as freshman impact. Number 3, I liked what I saw from Fred Moore out of St. Louis, and that's why I'll give him the nod. Also, as a wide receiver, I think you're going to get a spot, one of those guys, and also special teams, punt returner. If it's not going to be Cole Cabana, if it's not going to be Carmelo English, if it's not going to be Frederick Moore, maybe it will be somebody like Cam Calhoun. I was looking at pictures of him in the maize and blue, a freshman cornerback 2. There's a lot of candidates. We could go over, I don't know, a solid 5 or 6 that we're talking about. We'll probably see more than one, especially in I was going to call it the exhibition season. And the non-conference season, we'll likely see, a half dozen different corners out there and maybe a different starter or 2. But Calhoun was not in for spring, but I could see him being out there and getting some run and getting some burn and being an impact freshman. And that gets me to the number 1 Michigan football player who I expect to have a freshman impact this year. And I went with, drum roll, Jair Hill. Jair Hill, the 6'2" freshman DB out of Kankakee, Illinois. Now, a lot of why I put Hill in there is because I did see him in the spring game. He was in for spring. And he was impressive. What I liked about Calhoun is that I saw it on at least 2 or 3 plays. I saw a physicality. I saw a freshman, a true freshman. He wasn't even a freshman. He should have been in high school. And he was out there playing with the big dogs in the spring game. And he came up and he stuck his hat in there. And he's a hitter. And he just had, there's something you watch. We'd all do it. You watch, you're like, whoa, what number is that guy? Who's number 20? Check the notes. Hill. This guy looks like a player. Jair Hill. You all know the name. You're all familiar with his background, but you look out there at cornerback 2, and if it's not this guy, if it's not that guy, if it's not, it could be somebody like Jair Hill. That is my prediction. Not going to be a surprise to me if it ends up being Hill. Just a little bit that I saw of him there. Now, there was a corner named Miles Pollard, not to be confused with Micah Pollard in the same class, who's a linebacker who has a bright future and was a special team standout last year. Talking about Micah, who wears number 4. I'm talking about 24 Miles Pollard. For 2 years in a row, I have seen Pollard in the spring, and there's a fluidity. There is just the look to him that, I see, and I say, that guy looks like a player. He's my super dark horse this year Miles Pollard out there as a corner for Michigan, but I got Jair Hill as number one in terms of impact. Now, I ask you what you want to hear coming out of training camp for Michigan, and I'll get your feedback and I'll tell you what I want to hear coming out of training camp for Michigan. First, I want to tell you about Reno's hot dog stand and catering. The next time you can see the guys is coming up this Thursday. This Thursday, already August the 10th, guys will be out at the Northville Winery and Brewery. Stop by and tell them good afternoon. Michigan football sent you. That's what you need to do. All right. What do you want to hear coming out of training camp? JP wants to hear from training camp. We're 100% healthy heading into this week's matchup versus East Carolina. Knowing that we've had the pads on now, I just pray everyone stays healthy. Now, I could say it goes without saying, and it does. But, JP, you said it. And it's what it's on everybody's mind. It's the first thing. Well, you don't want anybody hurt. So you are correct. Meanwhile, it is football. And you do realize that there are going to be some guys that get banged up. You don't want it to happen. Of course. Yeah, well, you want it to. No, you don't want it to happen, but you know that it is going to happen. But I agree. It would be nice to hear that we're 100% healthy. That would be great to be able to hear. Unlikely, but it would be nice. Let's see. Got a lot more Ohio State talk. Moving up here, there's a thumbs down. Ohio State, Ohio State burgers. Let's see. Richard weighed in on the freshman. Boom Boom Hall and Cole Cabana are my choices for outstanding freshmen this season. Yeah, I mean the chances of seeing those guys are much better early. And then, if you make a statement early, if Michigan blows out East Carolina and they're up 50-0 in the third quarter, you get a chance to see Cabana. You get a chance to see Ben Hall. And, these guys start running wild. And it's like, they demand more snaps. The fans will. I will be, saying you want to see it more. Even though you got Blake Corum, best running back in the country, and then you got Donovan Edwards, the second best running back in the country. Where the carry is going to come from? Well, when you get a chance to get in there, and you show out, that's how you do it. I remember a game. I'm trying to remember what game it was. Michigan had Tyrone Wheatley. And they brought in a back that I had never heard of, and I still can't spell his name to this day. Tomunga Biaka Batuka. They gave him the ball, and you could see it right away. You're like, this guy looks awesome. Right away. Wow. Can't wait to see him for the rest of his career. And, it was for Tomunga, great foreshadowing when he got in there that game, because he was and continues to be one of the greatest backs in Michigan football history. And when he got his chance, and you had the great Tyrone Wheatley out there, here's Biaka Batuka. I was like, wow, that guy looks special. And he was. So that's it. Let's take some more feedback before I tell you what I want to hear. Maybe some other people have some ideas about what they want to hear coming out of training camp. Steve is down in South Carolina. He's listening to Ohio. There's more Ohio. Everybody on the chat likes just talking about Ohio today. Account 22 is talking about a safety, Brandon Hillman. Now, Brandon Hillman, he is technically a freshman, part of the 23 class. He wasn't originally with the class. He was a latecomer to the 23 class. I believe he was a Notre Dame flip. And then as a safety, you know, I'll watch out for Hillman. I'm not going to be surprised. You know, if I did this a couple of years ago, I would not have put Rod Moore as one of the top 5 impact freshmen. You know, he wasn't in for spring. And normally when you think about a freshman that's going to get out there and play and be an impact, that, you know, he would be somebody, as Harbaugh calls a midterm, somebody that comes in early, skips their, you know, senior season or their second half of their senior, graduates early, gets to, you know, play in the spring game. It's usually those guys, but it wasn't with Rod Moore. And so that could be it with Hillman as well. That's why DJ Waller and, you know, I thought about Hewlett. Sure. I mean, there could be a number of different guys, you know, as a safety or something, or, you know, whatever. But I just don't know. I feel better. At least I get a glimpse. And those guys, I don't know. Do they have a leg up? Yeah, they get a leg up because they were in for spring. Antoine weighing in, calling a kid a goofball who picks Boise over Michigan, but he wants to be in sports medicine, but picked Boise State. Yeah. Well, I don't think, these guys have, the world is their oyster. The kid actually is from Idaho, so calling a kid a goofball that wants to stay in his home state I'm going to have to, I don't mean anything by this, Antoine, but I am going to turn this around and I am going to say that's a goofball message. That's a little goofy of a message. Not everybody's going to pick Michigan, and it doesn't really matter. Do I think the kid could be in sports medicine and the trainer, whoever it is, the trainer at Boise, could he be somebody that, you know, is just a great in sports medicine and he turns out and everything could be awesome there? Absolutely. Don't play the goofball or goofy card. That means it's actually a reflection on you. Not saying you're goofy. That's a goofy post. Just saying. It is. I like recruiting as much as the other guy, but Gatlin Bear picking Boise State is absolutely fine. Anybody saying anything else is a little goofy, to use your talk, Antoine. Account 22, he's a little goofy too. Recruiting makes you guys a little goofy. You're goofy. Antoine with another goofy pick, another goofy feedback. Maybe we just won't put any more of his feedback up today. Richard is hearing things. All right, let's hear. let me take this in for the first time. I like when people are hearing things. Richard. Oh no, this is what he wants to hear. Sorry. I thought he said he is hearing. I want to hear that the O-line is gelling and is ready to win the Moore Award. Yeah, that would be nice. You know, they got a lot of different offensive linemen, but, you know, having 5 that emerge and having it come out of camp that they have stalwarts up front that want to pave the way and want to win the Joe Moore Award again. Yes, I am with you there. I think that's a great thing to want to hear. PMP, he's just fired up. Let's go, Antoine. Let's do it. Let's go. Here I said I was going to ban him, and then I went right back to him. Wesley, how will any of these freshmen make an impact if Michigan has 20 different players drafted based on what Harbaugh said? Well, let's just look back to last year. Nobody would have picked Mason Graham to be the starter on the Michigan defensive line, and it happened. To answer your question, is that it happens. These guys come in, you take the credentials, the stars, and the recruiting and everything, you throw it all out the window, and then you put them on the field and see who's going to compete. And sometimes I had a friend who, he loved Rottweilers. And he used to say, if they're going to bite as pups. And a lot of times these pups come in and they're ready to bite. And they're ready to fight. And they just they're one of the better players. and they emerge, like is the case with Mason Graham. Or you look at somebody highly touted, like Will Johnson, and those guys just the talent, you can't keep them off the field. That's why somebody like Jair Hill, who is my pick, who flashed in the spring game, I could see him. I know he would have to go over Miles Pollard, Jaden McBurrows. We could name probably 4 other guys, but he might be as good as any of those guys, and he could be. And it might be, you have to wait to midseason sometimes, but that's how it happens. So talent is how it happens. And then the other one is like Colston Loveland. Talent and then the opportunity because of injury. And so that's how it's going to be. Talent and injury, Wesley. It does happen. Harvey is wondering who will be quarterback 2. He would love to see Alex Orji. I think Orji is a fan favorite. I follow Orji on Instagram. And Orji looks like a linebacker. He physically looks like he should be in professional football. It looks like Jalen Hurts is so jacked up, yoked up, a big time weight, and that's what Orji looks like. And I do think that though in some package situational stuff, short yardage, it's not going to be a surprise to anybody to see Orji in there. How's his arm? How's his accuracy? I liked it. I just watched him throw the football. It was in the spring game. Now I heard some people that I talked with that were at practices, and it was a mixed bag in terms of him throwing the ball. One person was like, "Yeah, it looked pretty good. It just wasn't so accurate." Another guy said, "Yeah, he throws a good ball. Needs to develop a little touch." So these were just some different opinions on some people that went down there. And should I answer the phone that says potential spam? I'm going to say no. Plus, if you're a friend of mine, why would you call during the 1 o'clock hour? Unless you had some breaking news, then you should just text me. Where was I at? Oh, Orji. Yeah, so I think we'll see Orji out there. I definitely think that, you put him out there and a short yardage goal line. I think we will see that. I did hear something already, and that is, and it's, should I need to table everything and saying it's early in fall camp? Okay, it's early in fall camp, but I did hear that the Indiana grad transfer, Jack Tuttle, would be considered the number 2 right now. And you say there's nothing against Davis Warren. He's not the number 2 guy right now. It's just a weekend. But, they put him. Doesn't mean he can't be. It doesn't mean, it started. But so Tuttle right now, from what I hear, is the number 2 guy. Okay, let's see if we keep going. The coach saying Michigan getting 20 players drafted is not too far-fetched. Yeah, maybe. Here's D's. D's. Not everything is a coronation to the start of the season, everybody feeling great and everybody patting each other on the back, telling everybody how great Michigan is. Here's D's with an opposite approach. You guys want to talk about Ohio when our recruiting is in the toilet. I told everyone after Jaden Davis not to celebrate too early. Now look, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I'm not upset at all about Michigan's recruiting. And I do see just how it's unfolding is that Michigan may be doing it. I'm not ready to proclaim, I know some people are, that, the Michigan way here and how they're handling name, image, and likeness and how they're handling pay to play. They got this. These guys, they're doing great. I'm not 100% sure about that. But as things sit right now, Dees, I think that you and other people that are, and recruiting is fun to follow. And name, image, and likeness is fun to follow and all of that. But Michigan, with name, image, and likeness this year, hit a grand slam with the players that they were able to keep on the team. Blake Corum comes to mind. Both of the guards, like two guys that would be in the NFL. Across the board, they did a great job. Those who stayed were compensated. Grand slam for the NIL. Now, when it came down to recruiting, Michigan had that 17th, 18th ranked class. So I understand how you don't like that. I didn't like that myself. But you blend in the 10 transfers that they got. And do I think it's sustainable? How are they going to be able to get those stars? Well, I think the idea is getting them on the second time around. These guys that go for the money, understandable in some cases, go for the big paydays because they're 5 stars, they're top 100 guys. But then half of those guys are back in the transfer portal, and that's where Michigan's going to get them. That's their approach. Take care of the guys on the back end, 5th-year guys, and in this case, because of the pandemic, 6-year guys. It opens up scholarships where they can bring a bunch of more guys in, and then it creates harmony within the team. But will they pick and choose, and do they keep throwing things at the NLI and working at that? They do. So I think that this, Goofy's the name of the day, and I know people. I invite them. I'm happy that everybody's in here and everything, and Antoine is my favorite. And, he was running the Goofy card out there. And then I had to give account 22. I also think he was being a little goofy talking about recruiting. And D's, you're being a little goofy when it's talking about recruiting. Recruiting is not in the toilet. Recruiting is doing good. And, you warning everybody, that they're not going to be able to Jaden Davis. Look, I like getting 5 stars myself. It seemed when it came down to those Scots, I got a little goofy. When it came to that big defensive tackle out of Chicago, I was goofy. I thought that Michigan had a real chance in signing him. And and also Aaron Scott. Great Scott. I got a little goofy with both of those guys. Ended up going to Ohio State. So I was goofy. So telling everybody not to act goofy when I was acting goofy, you can call me names if you want. But this is Michigan's okay. I mean, there've been times over the past 10, 15 years, even with Jim Harbaugh in there, that I have been, I don't know about the biggest critic, because there's a lot, there's critics always waited. Hell, the critic. But right now, I like how things are sitting. And I am willing how name, image, and likeness is unfolding, how pay-per-play is unfolding, what Michigan is doing in those regards, and with the transfer portal, football-wise, I'm willing to give Michigan a leeway and to see if maybe they're a little bit smarter and a little bit ahead of what's going on and how they're planning. The key is, let's all agree with this, the key is to keep winning. And if they go out and have a spectacular season, I think those things, I'm going to tell you, D's, the recruiting is going to take care of itself. And as much as I want 5 stars, and I know you do too, let's back off the recruiting is in the toilet. No, it's not. Recruiting is not in the toilet. Recruiting is fine. Let's see. JP is talking about the bear that got away. The kid was lightning fast. Account 22, who got the goofy card today, calling another goofy out. I'm a little bit behind, and I remember it was Friday or the one day last week, somebody was like, you can't stay up with all the feedback. Well, it's hard. Maybe I need to just read it and move on, okay? Richard is talking about the Boise kids going to have much less competition. D. Spencer is hearing that Dante Moore isn't happy and he puts a little LOL. Oh, you mean Dante Moore, who went to the highest bidder in NIL, who went to Oregon but got a better deal for UCLA, now isn't happy? And do you think on the second time around that he'll be going for another NIL score? Hey, if you're just going, and this is it, like, I don't know, am I giving advice to young millionaires? You got to be careful, who's giving you the millions up front and, your happiness over the next 3 or 4 years in playing time. Money is a factor. Like, Dante Moore was like Michigan knew this was from Michigan. Michigan thought that they had to beat over $1.5 million and some jobs and the Nike factory, the Nike building over there for, I don't know, was it a half dozen of his family members? I don't know how much that was worth. I don't know. I'll put another $1 million on that. It seemed like it. I don't even know my value. So this is what Michigan thought that they had to beat. And so UCLA, obviously, I will say, came over the top. So at least $3 million, I'm going to say that UCLA. So if you're just going for the biggest score, fine. I mean, what was Michigan offering? Nothing up front. Nothing. UCLA, $3 million. So I don't know, $3 million can make you happy. But Dante Moore, not happy. Really? Antoine is telling me that I sound goofy. It's fair. It's fair. Let's see. JP, I think, is lining up with Antoine. If he's laying on the operating table, the last thing he wants that I'm asking a doc is where they went to college. Oh, no, okay. To be honest. Yeah, I don't know. It would be once you're laying on the table, it's kind of too late. Is it, Jason? No, that might be something that, I mean, you love Michigan so much that you get hurt and start calling around to the doctor's office. Oh, yeah, Dr. Johnson? Where did you go to school? Michigan? Michigan State? Oh, okay. All right. Let me get back to you. Michigan? I'm in. I think, I could see you doing that. It could happen. Mr. Johnson wants to see those high-level degrees. He says I'm not sounding too smart today. It happens. It happens. I get sidetracked, and it's your fault. You started it. Let's see what Leo is saying. Kids want to play close to home after going on a 2-year mission. Yeah, kid might just want to be telling the hometown team what they want to hear. And then when he's out on the mission, I don't know where he's going with this mission, but let's say, I don't know, wherever. But he gets there, he's on his mission, and let's say it's a third world country. I'm not sure of that, but let's just say it is. And the kid's going to be like, the bear's going to be like, kid's like, where are you from? And he's going to be like, Idaho. Kid's like, I don't know what that is. Well, who have you heard of? The Michigan Wolverines? Kid's going to be like, oh, maybe Callan's going to rethink it. Maybe this kid's a little smarter. Okay, yeah, I get that. Facebook Glenn, my favorite. Facebook gets a little lonely in terms of the thumbs up. I appreciate all the thumbs up, any feedback, any kind of comments that you make, and if you're listening to the podcast, all of that is good stuff. But Glenn is number one on Facebook. Count 22 is not believing the information that I'm putting out there because he says Orji is number 22. Mark, who Michigan's number 2 in the preseason poll, and Mark is number 2 in terms of feedback that comes in. Now let's see what Mark is saying today. Quarterback, arm equals 300 plus. Rest of body projects the arm. The rugby scrum sneak somewhat of a new phenomenon. Hmm. Well, Mark, you're saying that Orji would be a nice scrum half. As somebody who played the game for 2 years, I did play rugby for 2 years, and yeah, a scrum half, Orji would be a great scrum half because he would be able to grab that ball and decide whether to kick it on down the line to first his inside center, then to the outside center where I played, and then deciding whether to pump fake that wing or take it in to get a try. Yeah, Orji would be great. Yeah, account 22 does not believe what I am saying about what I am hearing about the quarterback depth chart right now. Count 22 also calling one of the men on the feedback out, saying that they are closet Buckeye fans. Oh, it must be getting close to the season. It's a Hadley comment once every 87 years. He put something down on the feedback, and here it is today. Let's see what he's saying. I want to hear who are the top 3 punt and kickoff returners will be, and will any of them be as good as Ronnie Bell was? Well, remember, Ronnie Bell was the number 2 punt returner behind A.J. Henning. How are we going to know if these guys are going to be any as good or better than Henning or Bell? You're going to have to wait. We're going to have to wait for the season for that. These guys can fire. They can catch punts out of the jugs drill. They can be, running them back. But it's until the season starts until we know. But it's a good Hadley. I don't want to discourage you. You only come around one every 87 years or something, and I don't want to discourage you from sending any feedback. But I'm interested in that as well. Now, having said all that about waiting to the season, way back in the day, I used to call over to Lloyd Carr's office, and I would leave messages about, hey, Lloyd, I'm good to go to practice today. And it got to be kind of a joke, like, I'm open for practice. Hey, I'd love to go to practice. And I never got any calls back. But then one day I did. And they were going to be over at the stadium practicing. And come to find out, I was the only member of the media there. I was it. Me sitting in the stands, nobody else, Michigan practicing. Wow, I was excited. That day, I don't remember anything except one thing. Michigan had a punt returner who was a true freshman. His name was Steve Breston. And they punted the ball to him. And he took one back 80 yards for a touchdown. And it was an amazing, laugh. Right? I mean, it's just an incredible punt return. Well, then they were reading the Defense to Riot Act. You let this guy, you got to hem him in. So they're screaming, let's punt to him again. They punted to Steve Breston again. He caught the ball, and he took it to the house again. Woo! I took it to and I was in the stands thinking, Breston, great. And when I got on the radio, whatever it was, the next time, and I said, Breston redshirted as a freshman. I said, Steve Breston, he's going to be a great punt returner. That was my breakdown after watching that practice. And you know what? Breston was pretty good as a punt returner. Let's do it. Let's go. D's Corum isn't going to be there in 25. No, he's not. Let's see. Count 22 coming back. Jordan Marshall will be, and so will others. It's a good comeback, honestly. Detroit, only thing he cares about, can Michigan beat the best teams in the SEC? Nothing else matters. I understand your approach, fast forwarding all the way to the college football playoff. Understandable, but I would like to, they got to get there first, and then, I get it. I get it. Can they play with Alabama and can they play with Georgia? I think they can. As a cart before the horse and everything else. So Jason is pleased with recruiting. Richard says when Bryce J. Underwood commits, we will be in great shape. That's a great point. If I could highlight and underline what Richard is saying, if Michigan is able to get a Underwood commitment, who is the number one quarterback in next year's class, and he happens to play for Belleville. Wide receiver recruiting, I will predict will pick up after that. And you'll predict the same thing because it's going to happen. The 5 stars, when you get somebody like Bryce J. Underwood, you might as well just take the pipe out, the flute, and because he will be a Pied Piper. They will be following him to Ann Arbor. So there you go. D. Spencer likes our NIL approach, although he thinks we should throw a little at Bryce Underwood. Yeah, I wouldn't mind if Michigan, I don't know how they're doing it. They've thought an awful lot about it, to take care of this, but how are they going to? I think that they have had those discussions. And, they're recruiting Underwood and also Sanders, the tackle from Providence Day, who's going to be the number one offensive lineman next year. I mean, teams are going to be offering those guys, I don't know, $3 million. I know it sounds crazy. At least $1 million. And Michigan's not offering that. So how do they even think that they're going to be able to recruit those guys? They must have a plan. And their presentation is hey, if you play in a year or two, just look at JJ McCarthy. After a year or two, he was making whatever JJ makes now. I don't know. What's JJ make? $1 million, $2 million, $3 million? I'm not sure. I'll say $2 million. But Bryce, could say, look, I can get $3 million before I even pull my shirt on. I don't know. So, I mean, I get that part. Let's get back to the D's and the goofy thing. I mean, it's goofy when it comes down to it. But I don't know. Maybe Michigan's plan. We'll see what Michigan's plan is when it comes down to that and how that's going to happen. Detroit. Can they go player for player with the SEC? And can the coaches go toe-to-toe against the best in the SEC? A non-goofy comment, because I only care about the nuts and bolts. 5 stars matter against the SEC. Yeah, talent matters. And I think that this year they can go toe-to-toe talent-wise. And while Blake Corum wasn't a 5-star, bringing back the best running back in the country when normally he would be gone to the pros because of NIL, I will say that it's like having a 5-star. Having Trevor Keegan and Zach Zinter come back because of NIL, those guys, I don't know, it's better than having 2 5-star guards. 5 stars. And then the couple of guys, I mentioned Mason Graham from last year, not a 5-star, played like a 5-star. So they got like 5-star development. And when you then factor in the transfer portal and a couple of these guys, Josiah Stewart, maybe Houseman, I mean, these guys, and I don't know, like it's a little bit far off, and I'm teasing some of the things that I'm going to say or revealing it before, but Josh Wallace, maybe he plays like a 4 or 5-star. I think Michigan, with the transfer portal, the development, and then the NIL where they have, that's why they are close to the top team of the country, because talent-wise, player for player, if they can look the SEC in the eyes this year. And the coaches, I don't think there's any doubt about that. They can do it too. Yeah, you'd be happy with all 4 stars. Look, I mean, talent is talent. Let's see if Steve Ben Herbert is taking 3 4-star guys that are willing to work and transforming them. Look at Hutch, Mozzie, Jenkins. Hutchinson was a 3-star that went, second in the draft? Find guys that fit. I mean, there's some truth to that. Hutchinson was a 4-star. And Herbert, schools love, it's an ace in a hole having a strength and conditioning coach. Michigan fans love Ben Herbert, and I'm not telling you not to love him, but other schools also have strength and conditioning programs. I don't know. Is Ben Herbert the best strength and conditioning coach in all of college football? I don't know the answer to that. I think Michigan fans are like, yep, they sure is. They went out, targeted him, and got him number 1. So if he is number 1, that's a nice thing to have. He has done a nice job. I'm not trying to say he's not number 1. He might be. And people do love him. I like his hairstyle. I think it looks pretty good. Let's see. You don't have to be half dead. We all look at the degrees on the walls of the doctor. I don't know where my doctor went to school. But now I'm going to find out where my doctor went to school. Where'd you go to school at? Detroit coming back, talking about conservative style of play and bowl record affects recruiting more than NIL does. Beat the best and you will get the best players regardless. The conservative style of play can help with offensive line, with winning. And the conservative style of play that you're talking about is what Nick Saban is going to this year. Nick Saban is following. And what happens in college football, I'm not saying you're completely wrong, Detroit, because Michigan is going to use their full-time second-year starter and J.J. McCarthy more in the passing game. They want to set you up with the run, but they do want to be able to have big scores. They do want to be able to do it all. They do want to match up with the SEC toe-to-toe that way. But that conservative style, you know what they say in business? First in wins. They say it in radio. First in wins. You know where they also say it? In college football. And the worm turned towards RPO, spread the football, throw it all around, play like Ohio State, point them in at teams. Harbaugh went old school. We're going to play smash mouth, or to use what you're saying, conservative style. And now teams are following. And it was just Nick Saban after SEC Media Days who said, the worm has turned. Physical style of play, controlling the line of scrimmage, running the football, all things that look to Alabama, who's that number 3 team in the country, and none other than Nick Saban. You're going to be looking for a little bit more ball control and a conservative style. What you're saying is hurting Michigan in recruiting. Probably hurts him with some wideouts. I would agree with you on that. It didn't hurt him with Jaden Davis. And then they might throw it a little bit more this year. Now, losing at the very end, like they have the last 2 years. I mean, before that, the bowl games, the record speaks for itself in bowl games. But getting to I don't know, it speaks for itself. But getting to the college football playoff, I mean, like, that speaks for itself too. So you got to kind of marry those two things together. Would I have rather have had Michigan not make the college football playoff and win the Blue Bonnet Bowl or the Citrus Bowl or whatever they call those bowls now? No. So rolling out the bowl record is fine. But I'll take Michigan going to the college football playoff over winning the All-State, Sugar Bowl this year, if that was the consolation prize for not getting into the college football playoff. If Michigan goes undefeated this year, but loses the last game, doesn't get into the college football playoff, and goes to a New Year's 12 bowl and wins it, I'm going to be like, well, that's good for the bowl record. No, the idea is to get to the college football playoff and win it all. You got to get into that tournament first. So it's a little bit the bowl record, and I understand, like if I was Who's the Twitter dude that everybody loves? I forget his name. Bell. Scott Bell. If I was Scott Bell, I'd be rolling out the anti-Scott Bell or the Scott Bell up at Michigan State. I'd be rolling out Michigan's bowl record too. But it's like everybody knows. I mean, it's not really that. It's not really that. Okay. What we are going to do, see a lot of people kind of talking amongst themselves. Always great to see OT. He has a feeling Michigan will change its policy for Underwood. Yeah, or you massage the policy, right? Like, there's a lot of ways. I mean, there's no reason for me to make up hypotheticals or for instances about it. We can do this, we can do that. I do know this. The Big Ten just snapped up 2 teams out of the transfer portal in Oregon and Washington, and they're getting all their money up front. Why are they doing that? Because of money and because of pay-per-view or pay-for-play. They're getting that money up front with those Seattle television market and with Oregon and all the fancy lights that they bring. So the Big Ten is a conference. And oh, by the way, we know UCLA gave Dante more. They beat Oregon, who was offering him at least a couple million. And so UCLA topped them for pay-for-play. USC, in terms of paying money, I know they did it before Reggie Bush and John Robinson was there. But since Reggie Bush, there's not a team, if we want to call them dirty, that's as dirty as USC in terms of paying out money. I don't know about Washington. But 3 out of the new 4 Big Ten teams that are coming in, they're totally pay for play. So if I'm sitting back and if I'm Michigan, I'm like, 3 out of the 4 teams we're bringing in are as dirty as a bunch of these son of a bitches are as dirty as anybody if we're talking about pay for play. So maybe we should be for pay for play if that's the way it's going to be. There's a little something to think about. 3, the majority of those teams that are coming in, it's not like they're bringing them in because of their ethics and because of what they have done on the football field in terms of, hey, these guys are great sports and they're above the fray when it comes down to cheating. No, they're the biggest cheaters out there, but they're bringing them in. If that's what we want to look at. Now, look, fans and most teams don't care about giving the players the money. They think they deserve it, although technically it's against the rules. Michigan is the one that, they got all the other hot water and everything else, but they don't want to get, it's dirty. But those teams that are coming in, if it's dirty, they are as dirty as anybody. So what's the plan? Now I'm talking goofy. D's nuts is like, exactly what's going on. All right, what do I want to hear? I do want to hear that Blake Corum is 100%. Although, even if I want to hear it, but I need to see it. I need to see it on September the 2nd. And when I see it, that's the thing I'm looking forward to the most, is Corum being 100% when other teams are going after him. Michigan, whatever they do and hitting in practice, nobody's going to be taking a shot at Corum's knee or, twisting him down to the ground. But East Carolina, they're definitely going to be doing that. So we'll need to see it there, but I still want to hear it. I want to hear that Corum has no limitations, that he's running in full drill and he looks better than he did last year. I do want to hear that. Now, back in Indy, just 2 weeks ago, Mike Sainristil, Agent Zero, told everybody not to be surprised if Josh Wallace's name is called a lot during Saturdays. I liked what Agent Zero was bringing to the table there, because what he was bringing to the table was he was telling you that Mr. Wallace is a ball player. And I wouldn't mind hearing out of camp that this Wallace kid is fundamentally sound and is not getting beat by anybody. That would be something that I would want to hear. Now, if it was Amarian Walker, if they said Walker is a blanket and has done nothing but make plays, I wouldn't mind hearing that either. I wouldn't mind hearing, Jair Hill is ahead of Will Johnson and where he was last year at this time. I wouldn't mind hearing that. I want to hear something about the cornerback too. I don't want to hear like they're competing. I know they're competing. I want to hear that somebody has super stood out and that has jumped up and grabbed that spot. And even though there's great competition, that somebody, and, just listening to Agent Zero there, old Wallace that they got from UMass, I think that could be the guy that we're looking at. So I would like to hear something about cornerback 2 and that somebody has seized the spot. This is also something, and this, I don't even know if it's going to be during preseason. Maybe it's going to have to be on the road when they go those back-to-back games at Nebraska and Minnesota before you feel good about that. But I would like to hear, at least in camp, something in terms of the kicking game looks great. Like Harbaugh comes out and says, I don't know. I know we just lost Jake Moody, but this James Turner from Louisville, he reminds me of Moody. He doesn't miss. He's potting everything. We put him under duress. We put him under full rush. We're out there. We go over to the stadium. He doesn't miss. And he's extended his range. He's good from 55 and in. Hasn't missed one. Now, Harbaugh did mention Tommy Doman has the best leg since he's been at Michigan. Nice praise. I didn't mind hearing that. But I would like to hear that the kicking game is not going to have a drop-off at all. However Harbaugh would say it, that he feels really good about the kicking game because of James Turner. And if, nothing against Samaha, who's the freshman, or the other kid that was the transfer from Mississippi State, Hollenbach or whatever, but, if those guys want to beat him, fine. My guess is that it's going to be Turner. This guy, 32, is going to be your place kicker, who made the Lou Groza award list preseason. I would like to hear that this guy hasn't missed a kick and that he's extended his range, if I want to get really specific. Harbaugh talks. Hey, Jim, how's the kicking game look? And Jim's like, you guys might not believe this, but I think it's in better hands. Better hands. I think that the kicking game looks great. Turner's extended his range and he doesn't miss. Doman's got the best leg since I've been here. He's booming it to the moon. Samaha, the freshman's got a stick of dynamite in his leg. If we need to try one from 65, he's made a few from. I don't know. I want to hear something like that. I want to hear about the kicking game and that it looks great. That is what I am looking for. You try to get a little pumped up about the season, and would you get pumped up? Michigan's been putting some tape and some film out there from their from the website, and so this is from mgoblue.com. I got a little snippet. It's from the director of equipment operations. Here he is. His name is Gary Hazlett, and he talks footballs and helmets, and he fired me up, I got to say, when I saw a little bit of Gary. So let's hear him talk just for a minute.
For the home games, footballs have started to arrive. Probably got to get around 300 ready for training camp. They come in, they're glassy, they're waxy, they're slippery. So they start using the mud and the wax and a lot of elbow grease and start getting it ready to our quarterbacks will like it like this by the time we start camp. As you can see, our helmets just arrived from the reconditioners. So we'll start getting those helmets ready for fall camp. Each player gets a sticker for each win in Michigan history they're part of. Wins number 976 and 989 were pretty exciting as they were Big Ten championship games. It's pretty special, but nothing's going to be more special this year when we hit 11. We're at 989 right now, so win 11, we'll be able to put that number 1,000 sticker on, and that'll be unprecedented. We continue to set the mark high, and like I say, we're nearing 1,000 wins. Can't wait to be part of that.
No, you won't. The 1,000 sticker now. If we're projecting it, if Michigan goes 11-0, the 11th game will be against Maryland, at Maryland. Win number 11. That's when you want it. That's when you want that little sticker. And then you'd have the 1,000 sticker on the helmet coming home against Ohio State. That's the plan. If it's like 2 years ago, let's say I don't know, do I even want to bring this up? Like, people don't like it, but I'm just going to say it. Let's say Michigan lost to Penn State. Terrible. But they won the rest of the games, and they beat Ohio State to get to the Big Ten championship game. They would get that 1,000 sticker by beating Ohio State. You get the sticker and you get back. Now, they want it against Maryland. You want the sticker against Maryland, but getting the sticker by beating Ohio State wouldn't be all that bad. If, along with that, you still got to go to the Big Ten championship game. Or if they didn't go to the Big Ten championship game and they only dropped one little measly game, if they were able to get into the college football playoff. Now, I don't want kind of a back door or a back end like Ohio State did last year. You got to sweat it out. You're not 100% sure you're going to get in. You're backing in. You don't win the Big Ten. Some problems that come along with it. Now, if you get there and you win the 2 games, you're like, it's you probably forget about all that. Like, I forgot about Michigan losing to Michigan State 2 years ago when they went to the college football playoff. It ended up being a great year. And I would have never said that before the season. Do you think they can lose to Michigan State and it'd be a great year? I would have said no. I was wrong. But, getting the sticker. Get the sticker against Maryland. But it's just a thought that if you, beat Ohio State, you could still achieve all your goals. And you get the little sticker, 1,000 for doing it against OSU. How about that? Get the sticker against Maryland. What a statement 1,000 wins will be. Is Bryce Underwood watching? What's up, Bryce? I agree. Brian says, let's just get it against Maryland. OSU is special enough on its own. No, you're right. You are right. Mark breaking down Justin Turner's accuracy inside the 40, 39 for 40. Not throwing that away for unproven Moody, plus except 55 yarders at the end of half. Yeah, Turner is, let's see. He kicked for 3 years at Louisville. Beyond 50 yards, just 1 of 6. So I would like to hear that he's extended his range a little bit. But inside the 50, you've got him inside the 40. Inside the 50, he was 87%. And it's not too shabby. Inside the 40, 97%. That must be the one that he missed. But 97 inside 40, 87 inside 50. I'll take that. I mean, how often are you thinking about going 50 plus? Sometimes, occasionally. Maybe though, that's maybe where the stick of dynamite coming in with the left-handed kicker. Sounds funny to say that. It's my inside joke. The left-handed kicker, Samaha. Maybe he'll come in because he can kick him from 60. So that's it. Okay, that is it. I do appreciate everybody for getting in. And if I offended anybody by calling you goofy, I'm sorry about that. You come back, you call me names. It's all coming from a good place. It's coming from a good spot with me. So I don't think you guys, I think you already bounced back. Call me a name. And look, Antoine's still posting, and I called him goofy. Great kicker, excellent pickup by Jim. Exactly. It was an excellent pickup. The transfer portal wasn't just good, it was great for Michigan. Not only did they get Turner, if he doesn't work out, they got Hudson Howland back. And if they don't work out, they got 2 freshman kickers that are coming in. I think out of those 4, they should be able to find one. And then, they got all these different corners that we're sitting around talking about. And I just mentioned Wallace, but, they got McBurrows. They got Walker. They've got Miles Pollard. Did I mention McBurrows? I did. And then they got 2 freshmen that I have 1 and 2 as impact freshmen. Jair Hill's watching this and saying, you're damn right. I'm going to be on the field. It's going to happen. All right. I'll take 2 more feedbacks. Goofy is cool. That's right, Gary. Goofy's the new cool. And Brad says U of M needs the portal since they can't recruit and develop. Well, I'll agree with half of this, Brad. U of M needs the portal since they can't recruit and get the 5 stars because they're not going to pay them. But actually, Michigan has developed. Now, you could say they haven't developed a quarterback previous to JJ, but as we look at it right now, they have developed JJ. And if all of the different quarterbacks out there, you could say, Joe Milton was garbage. Joe Milton actually looks like he's a pretty good quarterback. So previous to JJ, did Harbaugh have an issue with developing quarterbacks? Yes, he did. And it was odd because the quarterback position was you would think is his strength. That was the thing about Harbaugh prior to 2021. If you asked me, and I was telling everybody, hey, Harbaugh's a grand slam hire. Just think about what he'll be able to do with quarterbacks and developing them. And just think, there's nobody better for beating Ohio State and being able to turn the table than Jim Harbaugh, a guy that guaranteed that they would beat him in 1986 and delivered. Nobody knows about beating Ohio State more than Jim Harbaugh. Those were the 2 things that I touted, being a very good NFL coach for the years that he was there and going to the championship game and going to the Super Bowl. That all spoke for itself. But the 2 things that I touted for Harbaugh the most as a grand slam hire for Michigan was his ability with quarterbacks and then his ability to turn things around and beat Ohio State. And it took him a while. That's why it's a great story. And people are still, Brad doesn't think Michigan can recruit or develop. What a falsehood. Brad, 2020 wants its feedback back. What a ludicrous, stay in the moment. What a goofy feedback. Come on. Hey, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Goofy Brad. All right. That's Dee's burner. It's probably the other way around. Brad's burner is Dee's nuts, and he just switched over and got back in talking about recruiting and developing. It's all fun, Brad, because everybody's like, yeah, it's 2023. We're not sitting here. The pandemic's over. I think I screamed more today than I have all summer. And, it doesn't take much. I'll roll with some decaf next time. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back on Wednesday. We are picking them up and laying them down, getting ready for the start of the season right around the corner. I can't wait. You can't either. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you over on the Den on the Maize and Blue Review. Go to michigan.rivals.com. We'll see you over there. Until Wednesday, everybody have a great day. We'll see you next time. Thanks for those 5-star ratings.